Sakasitela Mdolisa. Good morning and welcome to Zimbabwe Daily on the Spot News. My name is Barbara Matarize, and the news making the headlines today are: government departments, ministries fail to account for 1.3 billion. Zimbabwe debt burden to worsen, International Monetary Fund. Fresh census scandal rocks Zimstad. A week after the death of Elvis Nyati, Ramaphosa sends a security warning to South Africans. Another chopper goes down. Japanese embassy rescues 260 HIV orphans in Mbare. The hypocrisy of selective outrage. Do all Black Lives Matter? The Auditor General, AG Mildred Chiri, has decried continued failure to account for public funds by the ministries and government departments, which resulted in more than 1.3 billion expenditure not properly accounted for in 2020, to prove that the recorded transaction really occurred. Chiri said several government ministries failed to provide enough documentation for purchased assets, making it difficult to verify the accuracy of the expenditure they reported. Expenditure amounting to 1.3 billion was not supported by documents such as acquittals, invoices, receipts, delivery, and goods received, not as proof that the recorded transaction really occurred. This is contrary to the provisions of Section 59.15 of the Public Finance Management Treasury Instructions 2019, which says that payments should be adequately reported. The report says. The AG also revealed that dual payments amounting to 9,384,85 were made to suppliers in 2020, resulting in unnecessary expenditure. The International Monetary Fund. In other news, the International Monetary Fund has warned that Zimbabwe's debt burden will worsen considerably due to the country's inability to compensate its displaced white former farmers, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe's failure to fully compensate for losses incurred when the country embarked on currency reforms. In the 2022 National Budget Statement, Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube stated that the country had an external debt burden of 13.7 billion. In July 2020, the government signed a deal with the white farmer farmers to pay them $3.5 billion in compensation for improvements on farms taken over for resettlement under its often violent land reform exercise. The latest comprehensive 2022 Article IV consultation report says the country's consolidated debt was now projected at 19 billion, which would further constrain its ability to access development funds. The external debt burden is in excessive. The country is incurring external arrears, reads the IMF report. Japanese embassy rescues 260 HIV orphans in Mbare. At least 260 HIV orphans, vulnerable children from Harare's oldest suburb, Mbare, are set to benefit from the Japanese-funded grant Assistance for for Grassroots Humanitarian Projects Assistance (GGP) scheme to the tune of 90,877. Mbare has a population of 800,000, which makes it the most densely populated suburb in Zimbabwe. It is also highly affected by diseases such as HIV, TB, and also drug abuse by youth. The Chinese project, which included installation of solar powers, boreholes, and newly finished classrooms, was completed by Chieza Child Care Center and local non-governmental organization. Ramaphosa sends security warning to South Africans a week after the death of Elvis Nyati. President Cyril Ramaphosa has warned South Africans against taking the law into their hands as anti-immigrant sentiment again flows up the country. Writing in his weekly open letter to the public, Ramaphosa said it is deeply disturbing how the recent incidents of anti-foreigner sentiments echo the country's apartheid. In other news, fresh census scandal rocks Zimstad. The Zimbabwe statistical agent Zimstad has taken rocked by a fresh scandal after it emerged at the weekend several teachers who had been hired and trained as enumerators for the forthcoming national census have been kicked out, replaced by ZANU-PF youths. Sources say the teachers were removed as punishment for participation in the strike, which took place when schools opened for the first time of 2022 back in February. Most teachers in government-run schools countrywide failed to attend classes as they headed to call by their respective unions to boycott lessons due to its incapacitation. The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education went on to suspend the teachers, but the move was declared illegal by the High Court. In other news, the hypocrisy of selective outrage to All Black Lives Matter. Following the gruesome murder of the Zimbabwean national Elvis Nyati in Diepsloot, it is saddening and alarming as to how long the South African government has taken to respond to the matter, irrespective of its seriousness. However, it is important to note that in 2019, when George Floyd was brutally assaulted and murdered by the police, all countries and organizations raised their voice in disapproval of the violence targeted to Black people. Hence the question, do all Black Lives Matter, or does the hashtag Black Lives Matter only refer to a certain group of Black lives? Another chopper goes down. ANA Forces of Zimbabwe AFZ helicopter reportedly crashed yesterday near Chibero College in Mondoro, but police and army officials were coy on details about the passengers and possible casualties. Impeccable sources told Newsday that the crash occurred yesterday afternoon near Chibero College in Mondoro. Military and police details also condemned of the site, making it inaccessible. The sources say that the crash took place in the area where the helicopter carrying President Emmerson Mnangagwa was forced to crash land at a developing technical fault while he was returning from his capital, Kwekwe. To end this bulletin, here are the headlines for today. Government departments, ministries failed to account for 1.3 billion. Zimbabwe debt burden to worsen. International Monetary Fund response. Face census scandals. Rocks Zimstadt. A week after Elvis Nyati President Ramaphosa sends security warning to South Africans, another chopper goes down. Japanese embassy rescues 260 HIV orphans in Bari. The hypocrisy of selective outrage. Do all Black Lives Matter? Thank you for listening.